All right. Hello, Jonah. How's it going?
Doing dandy. It's a Thursday. It's a fantastic day of the week.
That's right. Thursday at 4. We are going to be recording our podcast live in about 9 minutes from now. And so if you're tuning in to watch us now, you can go ahead and skip ahead unless you want to hear this awesome pre-show conversation, which sometimes it's actually better, I think, because it's more raw, right? You got the raw of what's
Like
happening.
cookie dough. Good old raw
That's
cookie
right,
dough.
just like cookie dough. Yep.
Mm-hmm. The best cookie dough.
So you're more of a fan of like eating cookie dough as opposed to eating actual cookies, like after they're cooked?
Yeah, I can't lie. Here's my 2 cents, right? Cookie dough is better than cookies, but I think toast is better than bread. So some things in life you don't need to bake at all, but some things in life are better if you bake it twice.
Do you eat cookie dough with eggs in it?
Is my doctor watching? No. Not particularly. Speaking of watching, let me make sure has my sound come through okay?
Sounds good to me.
Cool. Always like to check.
Check if you have the right microphone.
Yeah, it should be on the right one. Sweet. Just want to make sure.
Sounds good to me. See, I'm more of I definitely like to have it cooked. That's just of the warm gooiness. It kind of expands a little bit too. Oh yeah, definitely cooked cookie kind of person.
Yeah. Every year for my dad's birthday, he always gets a thing of cookie dough. That's like a steak. So it's a giant tube, and then we just kind of eat it. The family's fantastic.
Your dad?
Yeah.
Fun fact is that Jonah's dad's a doctor, so.
Oh, hey. I know, right? There's eggs in there.
That's right.
So you would know.
If you ever have any questions about medical advice, Jonah will most certainly know because his dad's a doctor and your mom's a nurse, right?
And 2 of my brothers are in pre-med sciences right now. That can kill them.
Exactly.
And they got 4.0s the first semester of college. Super proud of them.
Did they really?
Right? I know. So they're killing it.
What?
The question is, why am I this way? So anyway,
yeah, what happened to you? Like,
right?
You got the wrong genes.
I know, and then Gabe is objectively like cooler than me. I can't even deny that.
Yeah, so, that's true.
Anyways, yeah.
Sorry, it's got to be rough being like the prodigal son.
Right?
Oh man, I can't believe! Wow, it's December 17th. A lot of students watching, us included, are in their finals week. Christmas break is a day away. This is awesome. It is. I don't know. It kind of feels weird. It kind of feels like 2020 was never going to end.
Yeah.
And now it's ending in 2 weeks. Is it ending in 2 weeks? I'm not really sure if it is. Like, is World War III going to break out? Is an alien invasion going to happen? For those of you who believe in pre-trib rapture, is that going to happen? For those of you who believe in post-trib rapture, is the world going to burn asunder with flames? Does that even make sense?
I'm just along for the ride at this point.
That's right. We will see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But here's the thing I'm most worried about with 2020 ending, right? Everyone's talking about, we finally made it through this year. What am I going to talk about now that like this year is over? Every conversation I've had this calendar year has been about how the year's weird. So I'm sure 2021 will be weird and full of challenges, but like, can I still talk about 2020 when it's over?
You know, if for any of you watching who've been to Disneyland, it'd be like going on the Matterhorn and then immediately going to like It's a Small World After All, like that little key ride. It would feel just like that. Like you just got off the Matterhorn. It's like, what do I do next? What's next? And then you go to like, a small little boat ride. Like it's going to be nice. It's going to be nice for your nerves. It's going to be nice for your stress.
Yeah, John, it's pretty cool that all these issues that happened this year are just kind of going to be done next year. I can't wait. I can't wait for that.
I can't wait till that video clip is taken out of context after 2021 when it's twice as bad as 2020.
Oh man.
Oh, we're talking about this next week. Well, actually, in 2 weeks from now, we're not recording next week because it's Christmas Eve next week.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, though, it will be 2 weeks. Yeah. So 2 weeks from today, we'll record and we'll kind of have a pre-2021 kind of like New Year's resolution. But I think we had a guest say that we should make some predictions. We'll see. That could make the podcast go viral if we get some things right. Who knows?
We can be the next Simpsons.
That's right. Or the next. Have you seen the Bill Gates TED Talk on pandemics that he gave 5 years ago or like 4 years ago?
Huh? No, I haven't.
Yeah, he gave a TED Talk. So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been really vital in helping getting some of these vaccines with how much money they're donating, that kind of thing. And he has been that way for other vaccines, right? Not just COVID. His organization's been doing that for years. He's got so much money that he doesn't know what to do with it, I kind of think. But he gave a TED Talk and said that what's going to next big thing that's going to harm humanity that we should be afraid of, that's going to really harm us in the near future, is not nuclear war. It's a virus. And he showed a picture of what looked just like the COVID, what do you call it? The COVID cell, the COVID virus cell. I'm not sure if it's considered a cell or not. And it attaches the cells, but the virus strain with the little spikes and that kind of thing. It had bigger spikes. It wasn't quite the same. But yeah, like he called it, like, I think it was like 5 years ago. So 4 years before the pandemic stuff started. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Totally. Well, if you're joining in to watch us now, we're going to be talking today about what's happened in 2020, and then afterwards, if there are any questions, we'll do a Q&A after the podcast ends. During the middle of this podcast piece, though, we're not going to take questions because we're going to kind of edit it and release it as a podcast. So we will be ignoring questions. We've got a moderator. Her name is Angie. She's awesome. Give a shout out to Angie. All 3 viewers right now who are with the pre-show, give a shout out to Angie. And yeah, she'll be moderating and she'll be fielding questions for us. Oh, we have some shout outs. Let's see. Awesome. Cool. Let's go ahead. It is 4:10. Let's go ahead and get started with the podcast. I'm going to throw that little timer down again. That'll help me with editing and kind of jumping in, and we'll get started. Hello and welcome to the Church in Context podcast. My name is John. I'm here with Jonah, my co-host. Is that your official title, Jonah? Do we have titles for this?
I thought you were the co-host.
I think you're right. Yes. So my name is John. I want to introduce my host, Jonah. Jonah, how's it going?
Good. Just working on humility lately.
I can tell.
Yeah.
How's it going? How are you assessing your own humility recently? Is that?
I think I'm killing it. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a lot harder than it has been, but I'm really natural at it. So
I can tell. Yeah. Well, just want to welcome you all again. This is episode 9, and today we're looking at our 2020 year in review. There's a lot to cover with this. Wow. Before we jump into that, though, we have our tradition of having kind of an odd or funny news story. And Jonah, since you're the host, do you want to share yours first today?
Yeah. So apparently, a goat, a sheep, and 3 lambs besieged a municipal building in Turkey. I feel like I need to give more context than that, but it is what it sounds like. So there was a collection of farm animals went around this building and prevented people from entering it in Turkey. Is it the weirdest thing that's happened this year? Probably not. We're actually gonna be reading off weirder things that were less likely to happen throughout the podcast. But for this week, that was a pretty weird one. It's a pretty strange one. Yeah, I don't know.
And for those of you who don't know, Turkey is actually a name of a country in this context. It sounds like one of the animals, but is in this context, I believe you're referring to the nation of Turkey that is in by the Mediterranean Sea. Yes.
Yeah. I think.
You think, right?
Probably.
Wow, that kind of reminds me of a time that like a grasshopper almost besieged my car as I was driving it. Like it snuck in and so I could see how animals could do that.
They're bigger than grasshoppers. They'll mess you up. I don't know, like, so don't get me wrong. We have this picture of sheep as just being like super docile and cute, and goats are like the petting zoo gurus. But I don't think I'd want to mess with a sheep. I think a sheep, like if they were mad, and I was making them mad, I don't think that would go well for me.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, they could bite, and then they have all that wool that's protective. I mean, they're
honestly the perfect killing machines. So
I think so. Yeah, killing machines.
Yeah.
2021. Murder hornets. Watch out, murder sheep. They're coming. For me, this is kind of a funny and odd one, but also I think a positive one if it ends up being real. University of Stanford is finding a way to make cotton candy machines into N95 mask making machines. So I'm not sure if they're just taking the idea of a cotton candy machine or they're actually repurposing cotton candy machines, but they will be using that. I don't even know how to describe it. Whatever makes the sugar all fluffy, right? They're making that into not using sugar, but a different material to make the N95 masks so they can actually go to like hospitals and stuff like that. So, maybe your cotton candy could work as a mask if you don't eat it. Like, I don't know. That could be, just the future of cotton candy machines. I mean, if you're thinking of like maybe beanies or scarves or hoodies, I'm just thinking there's a lot of potential, right, with this discovery. So cotton candy machines, face coverings, it's coming.
That's wild. That's crazy.
Man,
what a weird sentence to utter.
Yes.
Cotton candy machines will soon be making the face masks we wear. I feel like there's a lot to unpack in that sentence, but all of us get it. That's what's kind of funny about this year.
Oh man, yeah, so much about this year.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna transition to look at this year, 2020. We can think of these ridiculous news stories and how they sound funny week to week, but looking back on this year, holy smokes, has it been an intense year. And I can't believe that it's almost over. It almost doesn't feel real. Like I can't imagine living in 2021. That's how long 2020 has felt. Ever since, for those of us in the United States, March has just been on and on. But there have been some key developments even before March that 2020 was not looking like the most awesome year. There have been a lot of monumental things that have happened, and it's just really interesting as we think about the church and how it fits into this. And we believe that, well, I shouldn't say all of us, but many in the church believe that things will get worse before Jesus comes back. And you kind of see that pattern happening in scripture too. And before there's like a kind of judgment and that kind of thing. So we're in that. And yeah, I just kind of want to walk through a timeline. Yeah, any general opening thoughts on 2020? Where do you start, right, Jonah?
Yeah, it's true. Well, I am proud to say I was a very early pessimist. So before COVID hit the US, I was like, what is up with this year? This is terrible. So, anyways, yeah, there's a lot of things. Yeah, like you said though, I feel like there's a couple very key stories, very important things that happened this year that kind of overshadowed everything else that happened this year. So there's again, there's a lot of weird things. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's good that you were a pessimist to start off. I remember all the different churches, and maybe if you're listening, yours was one of them that had the 2020 vision series, right? The church that I was attending at the time did not have that, but a lot of churches did. And yeah, I feel like that didn't go so well. And it actually starts on November 17th, 2019. Any guesses on what happened back in November of last year?
Well, there's a 19 in that number.
There is.
Was that the beginning of COVID?
It was the beginning. It was the first known outbreak of COVID-19 in Wuhan, China. So that's where it began. So that's why it's called, if you're ever wondering, COVID-19. It's not because it's the 19th COVID. I've heard that. It's because this particular strain of virus was first kind of came into infecting humans in 2019. And what made it a little more difficult was that it wasn't reported to the World Health Organization until December 31st. So it was already on the move, right? Before the World Health Organization, which is an organization that has been instrumental in the past, I should do my research, the past half century when it comes to like vaccines and kind of eradicating certain illnesses, like getting rid of illnesses and stopping them, like other pandemics. That's kind of what they do. And it was reported. So they were on top of it, but kind of a month and a half too late, apparently.
Wow.
And it was spreading. Yeah. And wow, that's 2019. And that's a key precursor. That's a foreshadowing for those of you taking your English classes already of what would happen in 2020. But COVID-19 didn't really become a big story, at least for us in the United States, until a few months in. But a lot of stuff happened in January and February of that year. So also spreading was wildfires, brush fires in Australia. And that was the big story of January, I feel like, was wildfires and just killing off not only people, but hundreds and hundreds of thousands of species and even endangered species down there, and just leaving devastation. Do you remember anything about the wildfires or I guess brush fires? I'm not sure what the difference is, but basically Australia burning down.
Yeah, no, I do remember that. So I don't personally have really any friends I can think of from Australia. So it didn't hit super close to home, but I do remember hearing about that and seeing a lot about that on social media. Just pictures of pillars of smoke coming up from beautiful locations. Yeah, it was definitely a weird way to start off the year. And that to me is when I was like sold that this year was going to be rough. I was pretty early on. I'm like, it's January.
Oh yeah.
The country / continent is on fire. What are we going to do? How's this year going to shape up?
Yeah, no kidding. That was a rough start to the year. And wow, there are just so many things to go over. This next one, I'm not going to touch on it a lot, just because I don't want to get into all the controversial details, but also as a foreshadowing. January 16th was the day that the impeachment trials for Donald Trump started, and that lasted 2 weeks. And he actually was impeached. He wasn't removed. But at the same time, this was a precursor into the division that we see in our nation. Whether or not you see them as legitimate or not, those trials and that kind of thing. But that happened. And that's a very unusual thing to have happen. So kind of keep that in the back of your head for kind of later on, because that also kind of set the stage for what happened later in the fall. But as someone who grew up in Southern California and someone who was a basketball fan, something else significant happened at the end of January 26th. And I'm sure you know what I'm leading into. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jonah?
Yeah, I do. Was that January? Man,
January.
my memory is so messed
January.
up. Oh my
That,
goodness.
you can fact check me, but that's what my one source showed. If we have viewers, you can fact check me, but I think it's January 26th was when that happened.
Wow.
I know.
No, Kobe
Forever
passed.
day.
That's that's crazy. So he wasn't here when COVID hit the US.
No.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's wild.
So that was the death of Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And his oldest daughter died. I remember it was a Sunday morning because I remember I was at church when like that news broke. But yeah, he was in it was basically a private helicopter. I'm not sure it's his or not, but yeah, because of a lot of fog in Los Angeles and I don't know exactly what happened, but a dangerous time to fly a helicopter and it crashed. And Kobe Bryant just 1 or 2 years retired. One of the greatest players in NBA history just died at the age of, how old was he? Was it 42, 43? Something like that?
Yeah, I think something like that.
Yeah. So that was a big story. And a lot of other celebrity deaths happened that we're not going to get into. I think of like Sean Connery died this year and much later this year. But yeah, just a lot of other.
Van Halen later on as well.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. So we're still in January. I've got 1 year for January.
Surely this year will get better, right?
Right. Surely.
At least we got the worst parts done. Nice.
That's right. This is one more in January. We can just do January. Let's just not get into March. Let's just talk about. So January 31st, Brexit. So the United Kingdom decides to officially vote to leave the European Union. And they have a 1-year timeline to do that. So that's still in process. And it's going to happen in the next few weeks, supposedly. I can't speak into the big mess that Brexit is. I know it's a big political mess. But that kind of became official on January 31st of this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously it was talked about in like past years, right? But they just took a more official step forward, correct?
Yeah. It's been talked about for a few years. Yeah, I actually don't have. We're gonna skip ahead real fast. I don't have anything written down for February. Can you think of anything for February? I think January was a little much for me. I just kind of mentally skipped ahead.
I hibernated in February. I'm trying to think. I know that at some point there were some conflicts between the U.S. and Iran. That might have been February. Anyways, might have been January as well.
Oh, this is also January. So that's when the Iranian general Soleimani was assassinated by a drone, which that's kind of controversial and might have been against international law. So there are some tensions developing there.
Yeah, which that ended up being a much smaller thing than I thought it was going to be at the time.
Yep.
In hindsight, at the moment everyone was freaked out, but that's not the story of the year. It's one we almost forgot, which is ironic.
I know, seriously.
Moving on to March. Tell me, where's the redemption? How does this year get better?
Well, how does it get better? Well, the World Health Organization on March 11th declared that there are no more viruses and everybody's going to be nice and healthy for the rest of their lives. Yes. March 11th was definitely not the day that they declared a worldwide pandemic.
Oh, man.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that happened. I lied. I apologize.
I still remember where we were when things started to get crazy in Oregon. So for context, John and I were actually at a youth retreat. The first one I had ever led.
That's right.
And I remember we sat there in kind of the eating area that we had, And we sat and we realized, wait, we're not going to be able to meet in person for church starting next Wednesday. We probably shouldn't be here right now. How do we go about this? And it was crazy. It was interesting to see how like everything had to adapt.
Oh, it was so weird. It was so weird, like going last second and telling our volunteer who did the cooking, like, all right, we have to completely redo how we're doing this, like the day of, and then church, Sunday morning church service getting canceled, even though our retreat was not canceled, and
Yeah.
us being like, this might be the last time we see these kids for a while in person.
Yeah.
So we immediately had to adjust to doing an in-person retreat, going home, and then suddenly doing everything over YouTube and Zoom.
Yeah.
And figuring out what Zoom is.
Yeah, it was strange. It was definitely unfolding. In some ways, it still is, but especially early on, there were so many like weird unanswered questions. That's kind of what I remember from this year is just
Oh yeah,
having to deal with problems I wasn't expecting to have to solve this year. And actually, our sponsor, Student Connection, that's one thing that they've had to deal with as well. We talked about it today. They're working on, bringing in a podcast on finding ways to do online resources because their event can't operate like it normally does. So it's just strange.
Yeah, so strange. So the pandemic was made official, and then I remember, I think it was back, I'm not sure if it was a nationwide thing or just our state. We're in Oregon, but you had the 2 weeks to stop the spread or slow the spread, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's been the longest 2 weeks. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well,
But
yeah.
yeah. With kind of that date, you have March 9th, 12th, and 16th are when the stock market crashed. The three biggest single day drops in stock market history happened. And with that, the economy just tanked in the United States because of all the lockdowns. And that was the beginning. That was, I'm sure many of you remember. I remember with the Christian school that we kind of worked with was faculty packing up student lockers and putting them in a brown grocery bag, and like that was it. Like they were not coming back to school that semester. So just so weird how that happened so fast and so just so suddenly. Yeah, and we're still in that, and I don't even know how to describe that. That's the big news story of every single month. But there are some things that happened kind of in between. This is kind of an interesting one. So this was in April. You had North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. He like disappeared for a couple of weeks. Now that happened, I'm not sure, I'm mixing things up. I know something happened in April and again in August, but there was like a time where he did not appear. People thought that he was in a coma. People thought that his sister was taking over the country. And it was just like, what happened? What happened to Kim Jong-un? He's like not speaking. He missed some key events. And yeah, because it's such a lockdown nation, they did not communicate what was happening. So there was like, you have this like nuclear threat and there's all this turmoil happening there.
I can't believe that was this year too.
That was this year.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Seemed like only yesterday we were invading Area 51 and then the world just went crazy.
Man. Yeah. Maybe we did successfully invade and this all happened. I don't know. Oh man. And okay, so this is another big one. So this was the end of April and then the end of May. So end of April, we started to see protests, not for what we remember, but people protesting the stay-at-home orders. So those are really big. Those were happening nationwide. And basically, it was kind of like I joked about a few minutes ago, that 2 weeks to slow the spread was turning into 6 weeks and 2 months, and it just wasn't ending. And people were protesting at state capitals as a result. And whether you consider they made some progress or they just made things worse, that was the beginning of kind of this showing how people were feeling unrest with being stuck at home, right? And on top of that, a couple of events leading up to this, but on Memorial Day, May 26th, many of you listening remember that what was recorded on a cell phone video, the death of George Floyd at the kind of gruesome, like the hands of a police officer, and just the protests that continued all the way through, I think it was October.
Yeah, at least here in Portland. At least here in Portland. I know for some other places it was a bit of a shorter time of unrest, but here in Portland it definitely was a major thing, and still is.
And what was wild, while this didn't happen, it didn't happen that long worldwide. Protests happened across the globe. Like it wasn't just the U.S., which think of like Minnesota, Portland. Okay, that's what we hear about. No, it was happening in major cities, London, Berlin. Just I don't want to say other specifics, but I know other continents were also protesting that. So just wild, and how that continued, and just the images that kind of came from that, and the different movements and laws that came as a result. Really, really interesting. It's almost like we entered in a weird way to another civil rights movement, which is really fascinating to see that. And wow, just continuing on, and this is something I wasn't really aware of at the time, but June 16th, there was violence between India and China, where there was actually some along their border. There were some, just some like attacks and other soldiers, and there was actually discussion of, are we going to enter into World War III?
Wow.
In June? I know. So
crazy as we didn't hear about that.
It's like World War III, whatevs. Like
World War III is on the back burner.
That's right. So there was some tension there, and there's kind of been little pockets of tension that we have been able to kind of see throughout kind of the rest of the year, right? So we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the podcast, but we have Armenia and Azerbaijan. We had that conflict. We had the Syrian conflict that's ongoing. A lot of war in the Middle East. There's just a lot of tension.
Well. There's a lot. A lot of things around the world. It feels like one thing could set all of it off. I'm surprised that the two largest countries by population entering the tensions didn't set it off. So, wow.
I know, exactly. Oh man. Just continuing on, this was a small one. As I was researching, I didn't realize this at the time either, but July 6th, there was a strain or person was infected with the bubonic plague in Mongolia. So Black Death.
Oh man.
Right. So I think that was nipped in the bud. Let's hope that we don't have another Black Death. That's coming. But moving on to something that is going to hit home for a lot more of our listeners is the wildfires. So if you're on the West Coast, if you're in the Portland area like we are, or if you're in California or Washington, wildfires were just devastating this year. And I just remember the day that it started in Oregon, like this super, super windy and dry day, like beyond windy, and then it began. What was your perspective and take on that, Jonah?
One thing I remember in that moment was really wanting to be there to help, but being unsure if I actually could. I don't know if anyone else listening felt that, but I remember telling people like, hey, if my house doesn't go into the certain evacuation level, feel free to come over, but I can't guarantee it'll be safe forever. That was a weird place where I remember wanting the best for my own safety, wanting to do what would be good for kind of my family and our home, while also wanting to help others. And those two things to me were a really big conflict for a while, which is something I feel like every year we hear about fires somewhere in the world, often in California. But being here in Oregon, that's not a tension I expected to find. But to me, that was the weirdest part about all of this.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I was also we also had some key things packed up in case we needed to leave.
Yeah.
Because it was in southeast of Portland was the big fire was coming, and we weren't sure it was going to be contained. So yeah, and then California got hit super hard. Some whole towns were destroyed by these fires, and yeah, that was still this year. So people are dealing with the pandemic, the loss of jobs, and maybe the loss of their home. Like this feels like the beginning of Job almost, right? If you've ever read the beginning of the book of Job, yeah, just everything being affected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely strange. Very, very
Yeah.
weird. I feel like that's one that more people gloss over. But to me, I would say that was one of the harder parts of the year emotionally. I don't know why that was.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember feeling just, yeah, a lot of tension, a lot of strife. I think because it was so visual for people I know. Seeing pictures of fires surrounding like your friends' homes was really hard.
Oh, yeah,
Obviously,
for sure.
yeah, there's been a lot of big things, but to me that was, and maybe it was that coupled with other things. Maybe it's the fact that this happened when we were all exhausted from the other
Yep.
big events of the year. But yeah, that one was really tough.
Yeah, I think that happened right at the beginning of school. A lot of schools pushed back their start date to like that week when that happened. So the first full semester of COVID school, and then this all happens, and you
Man.
can't even be outside. Like it's not just you can't go to public places, you literally can't be outside because there's so much smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, this happened on October 2nd, and this is just a big thing nationally. Was when the president got COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just a reminder for us that this is real, right? That this is a real thing, and anyone could catch it. Now he had access to some of the best medical team in the country, so he was ended up being fine. But there were a couple of days where it's like, oh wow, this is serious. I know that's happened in other countries.
Yeah, Boris Johnson got it in the
Yep.
UK as well, right? Yeah.
Yep. The French Prime Minister just got it too. So just like today or yesterday, he was diagnosed with it. So it's also happening, still happening that world leaders can get it too. So none of us are vulnerable from it. And that leads me into, and we're not going to talk about this a whole lot just because it's still up in the air, still controversial. But November 3rd, the elections happened. Well, the last day to vote happened. And what usually happens on election night, I know we have a lot of like young adults and teens watching this. Usually what happens is there's a pretty definite like who's going to win and who's not going to win. And usually if you stay up really late till like midnight, 2 a.m, someone concedes and you know who the president's going to be. But because of mail-in voting, because of just really close races being recounted, we didn't really know that. We had presidents or President-elect Biden elected on, officially declared on Saturday morning, not Tuesday night, which is really late.
Yeah.
But even then, there's been conflict and uncertainty even up until this date. So that's been a big, big news story, right? If you're listening today on December 17th, 2020, that's still probably in your newsfeed of what's going on. And kind of in the midst of that, going back, I referenced the Trump impeachment trial. There was a survey, and I apologize, I didn't grab the source for this survey, but it said 61% of Americans either agree or strongly agree that the U.S. is on the verge of civil war because of how tense things are between two sides.
Yeah.
And wow, you can see that. You can see that with the pre-election stuff, even post-election, which is highly unusual. So just a lot of tension built up this year, a lot of frustration, no matter what side you're on.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of negative. I'll say one positive. Ready for this?
Okay.
Vaccines got approved. So the Pfizer biotech vaccine, we actually talked about this last week on the podcast, got approved last week. So that was December 10th, or maybe officially December 12th, but like the first approval happened on December 10th, and people have been vaccinated since in the US, which is crazy. There's like a little bit of hope. The second vaccine, I think, is being talked about today, the Moderna vaccine. So that's coming. So there's a positive thing happening. I'm sure there were some other positive news stories that I missed, but the big monumental ones, yeah. Wow. Okay. I just said a lot of the past 2 months. Any comment or anything I missed with this year?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you got a lot of it. And what I'm interested in is just an exercise I've kind of been doing is thinking about how I've really felt in this year with all the challenges it's brought. Because I know someday, my grandkids are going to ask me, what was 2020 really like? And it's interesting. I wonder if, the way we view these things now will make more sense in the future. If someday we'll look back on this and have learned something. Or if this year's just kind of rough. But it's kind of interesting to realize where you're at now, to look back on the year, look back on the events, see how you responded. And I don't know, it's been like an interesting year to reflect on because obviously a lot happened. I'm pretty young, but I will say this is the most eventful year of my lifetime.
I think old people say that too.
Yeah. So it's been strange, but I guess there's something calming too about keeping that sense of perspective. But looking at it in the big picture, sometimes it makes it a little bit less scary. So I found comfort in that.
I think that's a good point. That we could look back and see how this changed us, maybe positively.
Yeah.
Maybe what things that revealed in us, either individually or collectively as a nation. And I just think of the idea that character is developed through trials, like the seed of character comes through adversity, through difficult times. And we'll see if there's fruit from 2020 or if we're going to be taken over by farm animals next year. I'm not really sure. We'll see.
Oral was right.
That's right. Hey, I did forget to mention 2 more important dates. Last ones.
Okay.
October 8th and November 5th. Really like key, like like earth-shattering dates. Like they're going to change the course of history.
Wow.
Do you know what happened on those 2 dates?
I don't.
On October 8th, we recorded the first episode of the Church in Context podcast. And on November 5th was when we announced that we had 4 episodes and we're officially going live on YouTube at that point.
So like when you balance out this year, it's like neutral, I guess, when you take that.
That's right.
It was an all right year.
Yeah, like it definitely balanced out. Like, who knows? Like maybe this podcast wouldn't have happened if it weren't for
You're like the butterfly effects.
There you go.
Insane.
That's right. Well, it has been a year. I just want to give a shout out to our listeners that this is hard and just acknowledge that it's okay to grieve what you lost. And I just feel for people who missed graduation, people who missed seeing family at Thanksgiving and Christmas, life events that were missed, like too many to count, really. Like all the parties you missed, the senior year of high school, the junior year of high school, whatever year you're in, you missed that. You missed the sports that would have happened this fall. Maybe they will happen, maybe they won't. Even more significantly, those of you who lost loved ones this year, whether it was to COVID or to not to COVID, but just really hard because there wasn't that opportunity for many people. For some there was, but for many to go to a funeral, let's say, or even to be with a loved one as they passed because they had COVID. So just want to give, whoever's listening, we are praying for you. We'll pray for you ahead of time, and just that grieving process of the loss there's a loss that everyone has experienced this year, and some it's been more or less, but it's been dark, and we have a lot to hope for. And I think we'll kind of talk about this in a second, but I think with this season of Advent, it really brings to light how much hope we have.
True. Yeah, and hope doesn't mean that everything is always going to feel great or feel good. It doesn't mean that you're not going to go through hard times. Jesus himself wept when his friend died. There was hard times he went through on this earth. But hope means that in light of all of that, we have something we can look forward to, even when the world seems so bleak. So, and I love one of my favorite passages that's gotten me through this year is 1 Corinthians 13:13. Now, these three remain: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. Everything else might fall apart. Those three remain: faith in what Jesus did on the cross for us, and the hope that we have in God. Hope for the future that we get to spend with him for all eternity when all this is said and done. And love. In the middle of all of this, how are we responding to a world that's hurting? Respond in love. So, yeah.
Good word. Respond in love. We're going to wrap up our podcast now with just what's on your mind this week. And we just gave a lot of what's on our minds. But anything specific for you, Jonah, that's maybe newsworthy, could be serious or not, that's on your mind this week.
And I guess if I'm going to be honest, those of you who are watching, who are students, who are in finals week, I'm with you. I am also there, 110%. So for me, at a very practical level, finals, I feel like you might have heard the phrase "the tyranny of the immediate." When there's something you have to do and it's right there, that's what kind of rules your life. Finals are kind of ruling my life right now.
Yeah. For me, so this has been a song that I have heard a lot, kind of this month. A song many of you hear every Christmas, but Silent Night. And just the idea that this is a Christmas that is going to be silent for a lot of us. It's a Christmas that maybe you're not with family, maybe you can't do all the activities that you normally would. You can't be with as much family, at least, or you can't see extended family. And it is a time where you think of the silent night of Jesus's birth. And we can actually take this time to be silent at Christmas, maybe for the first time in our lives, be silent at Christmas and reflect on the fact that Jesus came, that he became a man, that he showed his love for us in that way. And I just want to encourage you, maybe this is the only silent Christmas you'll ever have. So rest, enjoy it. Remember Jesus, remember the hope that you have.
Yeah. That's a good word.
Yeah. I have one last question for you, Jonah. Just in 2020, this is on the spot. Okay. 2020, who would be your person of the year?
Ooh.
Person of the year.
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I'm trying to think of somebody I don't personally know. I have personal heroes, people in my life. Sure. My younger brother got a job, which was rad. Got parents who were in healthcare, so they're personal heroes. Man, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Who would you have as your person of the year?
Person of the year, person who I can't think of anyone else besides the bold leader, outspoken presidential candidate, Kanye West.
Kanye West.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Some people might say Anthony Fauci. Well, yeah, man of the year. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. That's awesome.
All right. Yes. We have in the comments Jesus, obviously. Well, okay.
Shoot.
All right. Maybe you should be on the show next week. All right, Jonah, thank you so much for your time once again. I should say thank you for allowing me onto your show as the host. So appreciated.
Anytime.
And we will see everyone next year. Actually, one more time before the end of 2020. We'll see how 2020 goes these next 2 weeks. But one more time, and we'll have our 2021 preview and how to approach a new year and kind of the mindset there. So thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And we're gonna break. Okay.
Yeah, if anyone's in the chat, Fritz, I saw you there, man. If you're there and want to chat, feel free to do so, or just message me. That works good. But thanks for the compliment. I couldn't say it forever, and it was killing me.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
That's so funny.
You are looking fresh.
He's a legend. Fritz Kuhn. That's so funny. Yeah. This hear stuff. I feel like this will be an interesting episode to listen to, like, in hindsight. That's what I was kind of trying to go for, was just saying, like, how because I feel like we'll remember that Oregon burned. But, like, I don't know if I'll remember, like, how I felt about it. I'm sure people might, like, wonder that in the future. That's what I was kind of going for, which was kind of interesting. There was, like, a lot of weird things this year. So
totally.
Yeah. It's interesting to, like, keep track of all that and to think about. Yeah, I guess just how it affects you. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and part of the reason that's interesting too is because, like, you know, you could ask 100 people and, like, get 100 answers to what they thought was the biggest story of 2020. You know, there's probably, like, 2 major answers you would hear a lot about, but what within COVID or kind of the general political tensions we found ourselves in, which of those, like, you know, strikes you the most? It's kind of interesting. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Wow. I feel like someone needs to write a book about this year.
Yeah.
There probably will be a book just about this year.
Nah.
Oh, totally. There's gonna be like 11 books about this year. Well, any questions from the audience? Jonah, any good gifts you got this year?
Did you draw something off? I saw something looked like your handwriting.
It looked like my handwriting?
Yeah, it was very random.
It was? What was it?
It was a Kanye West poster. So I was thinking it was probably you. I saw it and I was like, this is probably John. I didn't want to message you if I was
wrong. Oh.
That's so funny. I was like, who else would this be though?
Would I really go all the way out to Damascus to drop off a Kanye West poster?
I love it. Something that we still look forward to this year. Is the year ending a sad answer? Is 2021 depressing to say? That's kind of one of my answers. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot. I guess one thing that helped me out a lot. It's actually really encouraging. I heard this from some of the kids in my youth group just yesterday. But, you know, youth events were really good to look forward to. You know, be it traditions that we've had. We did a late nighter instead of an all nighter. You know, we were meeting on Wednesdays and every other Friday. So yeah, there was some, like, events that I was really looking forward to, and getting to see them. They were you know, a big encouragement. So
oh yeah,
maybe that's an answer for sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Still, you know, even though Christmas is different this year, still looking forward to it. I think rest over the next couple of weeks after finals will be nice.
Yes, you are correct.
Especially because everything has to shut down, right? Even with church ministry, like it slows down a lot.
Mm-hmm. I've had to sleep. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to catching some Z's. Yeah.
Z's.
I'm excited for that.
Are you going to hang up your Kanye poster in your office?
Probably somewhere. I'm not sure where.
Okay.
I know. I saw it. And I looked at the handwriting. Like, this is John's handwriting. I looked at the poster. I'm like, no one else would give me this.
Darn it! I try to disguise my handwriting better.
The handwriting was actually what sold me before I opened up the poster. I saw the handwriting.
Knew? Oh man!
I don't know how I knew your handwriting. Like, it makes sense. I've seen we've taken notes on different things.
Yes.
For memory purposes. So I've seen it a weird amount. I've seen your handwriting more than I've seen most people's handwriting. So
yes.
Yeah, that's
I tried to disguise it because the person who I got it from put a post-it note that had my name on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I added the AH.
You?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
But it must have been the other handwriting that gave it away.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. That was a pretty funny one though. it was a good one. One thing I didn't realize is how many people give you presents when you work for a church. There are so many things brought to the office every day, which is, I'm not complaining, but
yeah, fudge, ham, and a lot of stuff like that. Brittle, probably.
Yeah, there's actually so much, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
So lots of free candy, dude. And it's taught me one thing. It's that Ghirardelli caramel kind of carries the Ghirardelli chocolate bar. There's been a lot of Ghirardellis have been given, which is great. I'm not complaining. But every time I get to a caramel one, I'm like, this is the best Ghirardelli.
No.
Although every gift has been so generous. People are insane. All the sweets, dude. Yeah, you're right.
All the sweets.
I wasn't expecting so many. I walked in the other day and there was 3 bags on my desk. It's like, what is this?
Yep. I know.
That's fair. New theory, that was the thorn in Paul's side. There was a lot of churches he was reaching out to, right?
It was.
There's probably a lot of candy given at Christmas. I wonder when they celebrated Christmas. I know it wasn't the same way, but anyways.
I don't know if they did.
I know that they do it's certainly getting celebrated in 4th century, but
yeah, right. But what about 1st century?
Yeah,
didn't research that. I celebrated. If you probably got gifts at, what would they have called it? Passover, probably still the resurrection. I bet they celebrated that holiday.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything for Hanukkah that they would do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Interesting.
That'd be a thing. Anyways.
All right. I think we're fresh out of questions.
Yep. All the people that watched the end of this, we should give them something to comment if they made it this far. If they watched all the way to the end of the YouTube video, we should do a giveaway or something at the end of one of these in the future, just to see who actually watches and says something. That'd be kind of funny.
Poster.
Some Easter egg, some kind of Easter egg needs to be here.
You're right. If
you made it to the end, comment, is John's salt lamp a metaphor for being the salt and the light? Make that comment. I thought about that. Yeah, early on. Yeah, comment that. If you made it to the end, we'll know.
We will feature you on our next YouTube live.
Mm-hmm. You're not wrong. California to Portland, so.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right. See you all in 2 weeks. Peace out. Merry Christmas.